Hello everyone. Today we are discussing about the operating system and the system programming. Mainly we are discussing about the how the architecture of the operating system, memory management, and how the boot flow will goes. And then we are next we are coming for the what is the operating system. The operating system is like which consists of user space and the kernel space. Both we will combine. It is as a operating system. What the user space will contains, user space will contains the like printf statements, scanf statements, like that, and the standard libraries and the application programs and the system calls to interact with the kernel. These are the things it will be there in the user space. And if you go for the kernel space, what will be the kernel space exist? The kernel space have the user space commands and the interact with the hardware via drivers and device trees, and the combination of code plus services, and the protected by the isolation. This is the flow how it will go. User space is we have the application program. Through application program we are interacting with the system calls. The system calls will consistent of the read write uh, concepts, and then we are going with the kernel. The kernel will interact with the hardware using the device drivers. Then if you go for the next, like what the kernel core components are there, what it means consistence of the main consistent it consists is the core architecture, the fundamental and the kernel structure device, like which gpos has used which one, like it will be there. And the loaders, the loaders like loads the application into the ram uh, to make the performance. In kernel services what are there is like ipc mechanism and file management and the memory management. What it will do, like it will maintain our uh, drivers. The ipc is like um, why we are using that one is like for the communication purpose we are using. The file system is like to store, and everything will be like mostly like device drivers will be um, work based on the file system management, and the memory management or there. Isolation, like it will separates the user space and kernel space, like it is a protection between the user space and kernel space. If something happened in user space, like if some application is got crashed, then it shouldn't affect the kernel space. That's why we are using the isolation protection. And then if you go for like what are they, what is the structure of kernel architecture. um, the kernel this architecture basic of code is like bsp and csp. It consists of what will be the bsp. Bsp is like a board support packages which controls the peripheral of the hardware, and like giving the instruction how it should interact and how it should do, and the hardware specifications, initialization and device configuration, like what are we are going to use in that device. And the csp is like cpu support packages, like it's telling a process specific codes, like processor and the cpu utilization and process management. Main it will consistent of like how much one process, how much cpu utilization should be there. It all are declared in the cpu support packages. The key points are here is like loaders load the application into the ram, and kernel initializes all the internal data structures. uh, all internal data structures is it's nothing but the device trees and drivers. And the architecture specific code plus kernel is equal to the boot process. And then if you go for what how the basic code, like how the compilation is going in the c file. Main here it is like the .c file will be there, and after that processor will be there, and the compiler and the assembler and the linker and the .a4. Like here the what will he the preprocessor will do, the preprocessor will remove the all the commands and the handled macros. This all are it will remove. And the compiler, what it will do is like it converts the .c normal text file into the assembly language. What the assembly language assembler will do is like the assembler converts into the object code, and the linker is it resolves the address and linking libraries. And here a.out file is the our output file. The here important points which we are going to tell is like linkers communicates with kernel, because the output we are that is like object file, like output file, it's running with the kernel, and the header files should be stored in the prototypes. Libraries are stored in the source code. Like we are not going to interact this all with the kernel, only like while compilation only we are going to use that one. Whenever it's there, the error occurs at the linker stage if main is missing. Our normally basically code will be started from compiling from the main file. Here the linker is like searching for the main file. If it is got missed, that time it will throw the error. And then like memory and the pointer concepts, these are like how the memory allocations will be there. This is the value, how it should return the value. Here we are giving the character pointer. Here it is like character will be like pointer that it increments with the size of 1, like one byte is the size of character, and it reads the 1 byte only. If it is like int is like 4 bytes, it will read the 4 bytes of data. Here programming without the main function. If I want to start the program without main function, that time it's possible. Like here we are defining a macro to the main, and that macro we are using for the code, because like first this defines will be like compiled, then only it will start for the main function. Like this declaration will be started, that time it will treated as the main function. How it works: the compiler starts from the start. The start come from the startup code. This the startup code eventually calls the main. If the main is missing, the linkers fail unlike it was passed. If it is not, this hash define is not there, that time it will throw the error. And then these are the incremental operations. As we all know, like how the incrementation will happen. First it will be like pre-incremented and value assigning, and then post incremented. Here these are the few examples for the increment. How the volatile keyword will increase the values. Here like what will be the output, can you guess and comment that one? Here, next we are going for the how the system boot processing is running. Like we have two ways, BIOS and UEFI. Like here nowadays we are using only like uni extensible firmware interface only. Before running that we have to do the post, which is nothing but the power on self test. Like this will be checked automatically. Here this master boot record, and these are the few things we are going to discuss it in future. And this is the boot sequence, how it's loading. First when we on the device, that time it will goes into the either we are going to use in BIOS or UEFI. Then we have to select the boot device. What is the boot device? Like we have to select whether we are booting from the card reader or whether we are booting from the network, that we have to select. Then identify the boot file system, like which in that, if it is like if we are taking the pen drive, like which is the boot file in that one, that we have to take. And then load the bootloader into the device. Then we have to select the kernel, and that time it will start the first process id. That time it is the first process id will be like init or system md. Like yeah, this like first from first process only it will start the coding, um, running the os. After that it will load the kernel. In that kernel what it's there, like all the device trees and drivers which are related to the device, either it should be usb drivers or either it should be like anything display or anything, that all drivers should be loaded here. And then os fully running, like here os fully running is like nothing but the applications what we have in that os or anything, like from some pre-built applications will be there, something will be there, that it will preload on that one. Then bootloader starts with the os chain and the loads into the memory. These are the previously we have discussed what are the boot devices. Boot devices will be like cd drive and hard disk and network and usb. Like boot chains, bios executes the mbr. Bios will be like it will take as the mbr. The mbr loads the grub loads the kernel, kernel executes the init, init executes the run level programs. This is how the boot flow will be there internally. Like if you are using the bios, the grub features is allows the kernel selection. Defaultly low, it's no user input. Without any user input it will load the kernel, can boot multiple operating systems. Yeah, what is the kernel panic? When the kernel crash, the entire system will crash. This event is called as kernel panic. Why it is happened? It is kernel controls the entire system. Usually it caused by the hardware communication issues. Like if some device is the main controller is trying to use one peripheral of hardware, that time it was not working, that time the whole system will get crashed. Critical system failure and the driver's problem. Sometimes if the driver is not working, that time also it will be like that. And then we are like how we have to recover the device. We have to system restart is required. Then we have to check the hardware connections, it is there or not, proper connection is there or not. And then we have to fix the driver. If it is like if it is hardware issue, driver issue, we have to fix the driver. And now we have to check the system logs again, like what it got failed. And then these are the few commands, like for basics of linux, like cd dot dot, it will like go it will take us to one directory backwards. And then pwd is like it tells us where is the current location where we are stayed. And ls is ls minus l, it will use as the list of files in the directory with the permissions, like what the user should have, what the reader host have, like this all that file permissions also it will be shown. User management sudo is like it will take us into the root as a root user. Like in normal one, root user and normal user will be there. Root user, mostly root user have the every like most of the powers to handle that one. The file system, that read file, this will be like it will tell us like what the file consists, like it will give the file analysis. This will be like echo dollar, if we do something like it will check the return value of last check. These are the few commands it will tell us. Then moving to the next, these are the key this is the final declaration, like what we have discussed. Key takeaways, like what we have discussed is like user space and kernel space is equal to os, and the isolation of isolation protects the kernels and the system calls for the communication. And then compilation will what the stages will be there, in that we have declared, like preprocessor, compiler, assembler and linkers. And then booting process, how the booting process will go. and the memory and the pointers.